A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video, but more on that later. As I was building our off-grid shipping container home, I made a couple thousand little decisions in quick succession, some of which turned out to be really good, and some not so much. Often, the decisions you make at the very beginning of a project are the most important, because they go on to impact the entire build. But they're also the hardest to make, because you have the least experience and the highest amount of unknown variables. One of those early decisions, made over a year ago, has now led to the firewood problem. So let's rewind to a year ago. Oil prices were quite high, which meant more people were buying firewood, which led to a little shortage of firewood in our area, and we had to decide between one of two options. Either buy a bunch of dry wood that was too large for our wood-burning stove, or buy a bunch of wet wood that would fit in the 16-inch stove box, but wasn't ready to be burned for at least 6 months. I figured it was better to have wood that you could cut in half and use right away, rather than a pile of wood that was temporarily unusable. But in hindsight, the build took longer than expected, so the shorter logs would have dried in time, and now we're left with a mountain of firewood that needs to get cut in half. To me, the firewood problem is actually an opportunity. To build a bench next to this stove we can use to store wood in and sit by the fire, and to build a jig I can use for years to cut any type of wood easily with a chainsaw, in case we ever have future mismatches between stove and wood size. And with a winter storm headed our way, I have the perfect incentive to get this project done quick, so we have plenty of wood to heat our bedroom shipping container.
Try to organize my mind while the world falls behind. Slow waltz around the sun. Every year reveals a change. Looking back now, feeling strange. We all learn to be someone. What happens now?
Somehow my measurements are like way off, like half a centimeter off almost. I think there's like a little bend in the track saw guide. So I'm gonna run and get the table saw and just clean up this project. I feel like I should have gotten the table saw to start with, but I was being lazy and I need to build a couple other boxes as well. So yeah, getting rusty, I guess. There we go. The firewood box is done. I didn't trim up this side because this is going to go against the wall. And then I rounded all these edges because Max is gonna want to climb on this thing, I bet. I was gonna put internal divisions in to organize the different types of wood, but I think I'm gonna hold off on that and see how we actually use it, and then I can always add them in the future. I also probably should varnish this at some point, but none of the wood in the bedroom is treated in any way, so I feel like it's gonna look kind of wonky if this is like varnished and nothing else is, so I'm just gonna leave it for now, and maybe one day we will get around to treating the wood in that room with some Rubio or something like that. Turned out really, really well. Let's hope it fits. All right. So there's this really nice tree trunk that kind of got tossed to the side when we were building the driveway, and I think it's oak. I built the log benches around the fire pit for the wall tent with one portion of this trunk, and I think now I'm going to try and rescue the rest of it with the tractor and see if I can use this as the stumps for my firewood splitting operation. Yeah, we'll see with the backhoe if we can get it out a little bit and then potentially cut it up into chunks, move it up the mountain. It's one of those items that has been on my to-do list for well over a year, I think. Every time I drive past, I take a look and wish I could do something useful with this beautiful piece of wood. And today is finally that day. Sit. Girl. Free. So the $1 million question when it comes to chopping blocks is height. I think I'm gonna go with 16 inches, and then if that's too tall, I can always cut it down later. I feel like I would rather bend over less and have the axe work a little less than bend over more and have the axe work better, but who knows, I may regret that. This is pretty funny if you ever want to look in like wood cutting forums. People get really heated about this one. So this next piece is gonna be for the splitting like contraption that we have. So I want it to be a little bit higher, and then maybe I'll trim it down as well if we need to. Whew. I probably should have sharpened the chain in between those cuts because this wood makes it really, really dull, but I never really want to because the second you touch the dirt, it just goes dull again. So got a little smoky, but nothing major. Yes. Ooh, baby. I'm gonna have to think for a minute on how to lift this. I think like rope potentially in the backhoe. Freya, down. Don't do that. Huzzah! All right, today we get to the core of the problem, which is that all of the wood we own, this entire stack and our beautiful Holzhaufen back there, is like 20 to 24 inch logs, and our little Jotul stove can only take 16-inch logs, which means all of the firewood we have beautifully stacked, dry, ready to go, does not fit in our stove. So I'm gonna build a jig for the chainsaw, just like a custom little contraption out of 2x4s and a couple, I think 4x4s that I have left over from the shipping container build, and start cutting all of the wood in half with the chainsaw. And then I also probably need to split it because the stove is really more for like little pieces of wood. It doesn't really burn logs. I mean, you can burn large pieces of wood, but you just create way too much heat. What we really need is just a ton of really small pieces of wood so you can create small controlled burns that don't heat up the room too much but have to be fed constantly. It's a pretty funny balance trying to get the room the right temperature because it's basically a sauna if you go crazy with it. So yeah, here we go. All right, there we go. Version 1.1 is done. Now I just need to move it into position and we can start chopping this wood. I feel like there was probably a slightly more efficient way to build this, but it's gonna work fine, I think. And these 2x4s are almost free compared to like all the other building materials. And these are just the ones I have left over from the shipping container build. So yeah, didn't have to go to the hardware store one time for this project, which is a really nice feeling. All right, it's the moment of truth. We built the jig, we sharpened the blade, we moved the wood, and now hopefully it works. We'll see. This is version 1.1, and I'm hoping it's also the final version. It wasn't actually that hard to fill. I thought it was going to be more annoying, but this is actually really, really fun, easy work. So yeah, let's fire up the chainsaw and see if I measured everything correctly. Oh, wow. That is really, really fun. Everything worked exactly the way I designed it. It even falls to the side, which is really nice because it means you don't have to fully unload it. It's gonna be a really, really good afternoon. So, just as I feared, this stump is a little too tall. It's a little too tall for me even, and Wifey has requested that we shorten it for her and Max. So what I think I'm gonna do is sharpen the chainsaw and then cut it like right here. And this can go on the ground because Dana and Max actually like to work with it on the ground. He finds it like very amusing watching her split wood, and then the new height will be perfect for me and this lower height will be perfect for them. Yeah, so good thing I planned for that. Whew. So we are almost done with this project, but we're gonna have to hustle today because apparently there's a winter storm coming in tonight. I don't trust the weather forecast almost at all, but I feel like there will be some form of precipitation potentially tonight. Could be 1 inch, could be 6 inches, who knows? But as of right now, all of my beautiful firewood is out in the elements. So what I want to do next is build a box we can put onto the porch in between the kitchen and bedroom shipping containers so I can stack all of the wood in there and keep it nice and dry. And also that's like a really easy, convenient location to move it from there into the box I built in the bedroom. All right, there we go. Looks pretty good, honestly. Sadly, it's a little wobbly because the only plywood I had was the thin stuff. I had this one piece of thick stuff, but I think I'll just go back and rebuild this one day with thicker stuff. I would also need to move it a tiny bit that way, would be more satisfying. And our dream is to put in an outdoor fridge right there. So this could be like a really nice piece of furniture one day. But for now, it's just gonna hold firewood and the propane fits nicely in there. So yeah, I feel like something that looks closer to the way we built that would be really cool right here. Also because that window opens and then you could have like a little outdoor cooking area here in the summer. It's an incredibly good feeling to have so much firewood ready to go that finally fits in our stove. I feel like we could heat that bedroom shipping container for like a year now. I'd probably need to use the chainsaw one more time on the pile, but it's just a really, really nice feeling to have so much energy available. I'm hoping one day we can install a mini wood stove in the office, and this way we could dedicate the mini split in the kitchen for heating that room. Maybe even one day get a teeny wood stove for the kitchen. It's a really, really fun project, chopping wood. It's like one of my favorite things I've done so far, and it's also just really relaxing making little fires. So the snowstorm looks like it's coming in now already. It wasn't supposed to start snowing until tonight at 6. It's like 2 p.m. right now, so I'm glad I hustled. And the rest of the wood over here, there's just a little bit left over. I'm thinking I'm just gonna throw that into the tractor bucket, cover it with a tarp, and then chip away at it, because what we really need is just like mountains and mountains of kindling, because that's what the stove works best with.
We're going! We're going! We're going! That's a snow angel! You're doing it!
A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. A few weeks ago, we launched our first collection of meditations, and it's been so easy and effective to use Squarespace to launch this product because the process was so seamless. Like, you just upload a few photos, get the file up there, and then the website just kind of works for you, and we can have more time to just do life and enjoy, you know, these little moments. I'm actually going to take a second and meditate right now.
To see for yourself, head to squarespace.com/wildweroam for a free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.